What's going on, guys? It's Brandon back here again today with not a BFR, not a power rankings, but a career video. We haven't done one of these since the summer, and the reason I'm doing one is I usually do this when someone retires or if someone passes away, and just to remember them if they pass away, just to remember what they did for the game and everything they contributed, and if they are retired because they had a good career and they deserve some respect. So Bobby Hull, one of the Blackhawks greats, passed away recently. So I wanted to get this out when I was sick. However, I did not have the voice, nor did I have a lot of other things that I could have been able to do this with. But I'm healthy now. I've just been skating out for 3 hours at a local rink. My ankles are killing me, but we're going to do this anyway for Bobby Hull. Now, before I get into this, I just want to mention I'm not going to bring up any of the extracurriculars that happened outside of the rink. This is strictly a hockey-only thing. Nothing that he said, nothing that he did or possibly did or accused of doing or anything like that. Not trying to protect him at all. Just saying this is a strictly hockey-related video. So Bobby Hull comes in the 1957-58 season with the Chicago Blackhawks. As the 50s are not a great time for the Hawks. They're in rebuild mode. In 70 games, he puts up 13 goals, 34 assists, 47 points. No playoffs for the Hawks that year. It's one of 2 times in his career that they would miss the playoffs. And, that's his rookie season. Not too bad. 1958-59, 70 games played, 18 goals, 32 assists, 50 points in the playoffs. 6 games played, 1 goal, 1 assist, 2 points as he makes his playoff debut. Not too bad there. You see the point totals go up a little bit, the same amount of games, however, sophomore season, but then 1959-60 is when he really becomes a star in the NHL. 1959-60, 70 games played, 39 goals, 42 assists, 81 points. In the playoffs, 3 games played, 1 goal, no assist, 1 point. He wins the Art Ross for most points in the NHL at 81. Who would have thought? But that's only the start of his long resume of hardware that he has. 1960-61, the big year. 67 games played, 31 goals, 25 assists, 56 points. In the playoffs, 12 games played, 4 goals, 10 assists, 14 points. And Bobby Hull, along with some help from Stan Mikita, Pierre Pilote, Glenn Hall, they're all Stanley Cup champions. And this would bring up how many more would this team win at this time? How many more will Chicago win? They have all these guys in their prime. They're young, they're hungry, they want more. And they probably should have won a few more, but you had teams like Toronto, Montreal, they would constantly get in the way of the Hawks. Boston and the Rangers and Detroit, not so much. Detroit was consistently in the finals in the 60s, but they just never could win it. They went 4 times in the 60s, I believe, but they just could never get it done until 1997. So, yeah, that's kind of the whole debate there is how many more could they have won if they had won every single finals appearance? Well, I can tell you, 1961-62, 70 games played, 50 goals, ties Maurice the Rocket Richard for most goals in a season at that point, because 50 was the big one. So 50 goals, 34 assists, 84 points. He's got himself a second Art Ross. In the playoffs, 12 games played, 8 goals, 6 assists, 14 points once again. They go to the final, they lose to Toronto. So that could have been 2 cups right there. Toronto denies them the back-to-back, and Toronto would kind of be a big part of the 60s along with the Canadians. 1962-63, Paul kind of sits back a bit. 65 games played, 31 goals, 31 assists, 62 points. In the playoffs, 5 games played, 8 goals, 2 assists, 10 points. 1963-64, 70 games played, 43 goals, 44 assists, 87 points. 7 games played in the playoffs, 2 goals, 5 assists, 7 points. We go to 1964-65. 61 games played, 39 goals, 32 assists, 71 points. He wins the Hart, and he wins the Lady Byng. So he's a gentlemanly player, apparently, even though all the pictures without his teeth, and he's a pretty tough cookie from what's been said about him. So I'm kind of surprised he won that award. But the Hart for the league's most valuable player. reasonable for a Blackhawk team that's now people are starting to wonder if they can get it done again. However, in the playoffs, 14 games played, 10 goals, 7 assists, 17 points. They go to the final and they lose to Montreal in that season. So that could have been 3 cups right there. And unfortunately, it was just not meant to be. Pause it real quick. Sorry about that. Anyway, moving on to 1965-66. Big year. 65 games played, 54 goals, new record in the NHL that year. 43 assists for 97 points. He wins his 3rd Art Ross and his 2nd Hart. And 6 games played in the playoffs, 2 goals, 2 assists, 4 points. 97 points, that's a biggest total he's had on this board yet. And 54 goals, that's the highest anyone's ever had yet. 1966-67, last year the Leafs won a cup, had to put that in there. 66 games played, 52 goals, 28 assists, 80 points. In the playoffs, 6 games played, 4 goals, 2 assists, 6 points. 1967-68, 71 games played, 44 goals, 31 assists, 75 points. In the playoffs, 11 games played, 4 goals, 6 assists, 10 points. And, there's questions whether or not they'll be winning another one anytime again as expansion has come in. They're now in a division with all the original 6 teams up until this point, but we'll get there. 1968-69, huge year, both in my family and in just everything. 74 games played, 58 goals. He breaks his own record a second time, or 49 assists for 107 points, which somehow doesn't lead the league that year. He wins the Lester Patrick Award. For those who don't know, as I didn't actually know what it was until I was researching this. It's the trophy you get for growing the game in the States. Yeah, you had the most influence or something like that in the States, and you grew the game. And even with his 107 points, the Blackhawks shockingly do not make the playoffs that year. And it's the one year that they don't make it. Up until then, 1998 would be the next time they missed the playoffs. 1969-70, 61 games played, 38 goals, 29 assists, 67 points. Back in the playoffs, 8 games played, 3 goals, 8 assists, 11 points. And at the end of that season, realignment happens. The Hawks are put in the division, them and... which team was it that swapped? I want to say it was... Because they got put in the West Division, while all the other... one of the originals got moved to the East. I want to say it was... I don't want to say it was the North. It wasn't St. Louis. It wasn't Philadelphia. I don't think it was Pittsburgh. Probably wasn't LA or California, but it might have been California. Honestly, I don't really remember. But anyway, 1970-71, when they're in a division of all basically expansion teams, 44 goals, 52 assists, 96 points in 1970-71 in 78 games. That is. 18 games played, 11 goals, 14 assists, 25 points, and this is the heartbreaker final for the Hawks. They win the first 2 games at Chicago Stadium. They lose the next 2 in Montreal. They win Game 5, lose Game 6. Game 7 at Chicago Stadium, where every home team has won. They're up 2-0. Jacques Lemaire scores on Tony Esposito from center ice. Boom, boom, collapse. Not Jeffrey on. But, yeah. Hawks, that was the closest the Hawks got to winning a Stanley Cup till 2010, when they did. And that should have been 4 Stanley Cups for Hull and the gang, and they only got 1. And that was in their first try. 1971-72, Hull's last year with the Hawks. 78 games, 50 goals, 43 assists, 93 points. 8 goals, 8 games played, 4 goals, 4 assists, 8 points. And he throws a joke at the WHA, which is emerging. Gordie Howe goes over there eventually, and Bobby Hull says he kind of says it in public as well, if they give me $1 million, I'll go. Bobby Hull then became the first $1 million player as the Winnipeg Jets of the WHA brought him in for $1 million, the first $1 million player in the NHL. I can kind of see why the WHA kind of wanted to fold earlier, because when you're spending that kind of money at this time, not everyone has $1 million in this time. $1 million is quite a large sum of money. He was also upset with being underpaid, and let's be honest, this was a time when unions really didn't exist yet in the NHL. Ted Lindsay was a big pusher for that, and being traded was an insult at this point, because it was a weird time. It's back when dinosaurs roamed the earth in the 50s, 60s, and 70s. If there's anyone that was born in those times watching that, I know my parents were. I'm just kidding. I run that joke all the time. I make the joke how people only saw black and white back in those days because of all the cameras, like, those old cameras, and you take a picture, there's no color in them. So I always make that joke. It's just a joke, I swear. Now, in the WHA, I would have written everything down there, but I wanted you to see most of what I wrote down on the whiteboard, and that would have gone all the way down to here, and there's nothing you can really see until about here. So in the WHA, he plays 411 games in the regular season, 303 goals, 335 assists, 638 points. In the playoffs, 60 games played, 43 goals, 37 points, 43 goals, 37 assists, 80 points. And he wins Avco Cups in 1976, 78, and 79, including the last season the WHA existed. So Bobby Hull, 3-time Avco Cup winner in a league where I don't even really know how many teams there were in the WHA, to be honest. But then the merger happens. There was originally supposed to be an earlier merger where the WHA wanted to bring 6 teams into the NHL. The NHL said no. So then the WHA then got together with them again in 1979-80, and 4 teams were allowed to come back. Winnipeg Jets, Hartford Whalers, Edmonton Oilers, Quebec Nordiques. 3 of those teams are no longer where they originally were, including these 2, which we'll get to. So 1979-80 comes back to the NHL. Bobby Hull's back in the NHL for one more year. Comes out of retirement, actually. He plays, combined with the Jets and the Hurricanes, I put this all in one season. I mean Jets and Whalers, obviously. This would be the Jets that become the Phoenix Coyotes. Because he was traded from the Jets on February 27th for future considerations to Hartford. So combined again with these 2 teams, 27 games played, 6 goals, 11 assists, did not mean to scratch that, 17 points. In the playoffs, his last 3 games, no goals, no assists, no points. Totals for his career, 1,063 games. Add that with 411 games, he's got about almost 1,500 games. 610 goals, add that with 303 goals, and he has 913 goals, which is beyond Gretzky. 500, and these are also shorter seasons than when Gretzky played as well, so pretty impressive. Assist, 560, add 335 to that, you get about, add 35, that's 95, add 300, so about 895 assists. So 1,170 points plus 638 points would be about 1,208 plus 600. 1,808 points? Yeah, 1,808 points. Hell of a career. In the playoffs, he plays 119 games in the NHL, 62 goals, 67 assists, 129 points. In the playoffs, add another 60 to that, so that's about, I don't know how the WHA formatting worked. There's not a lot of information. The NHL's wiped it off the face of the earth. So 60 games, add on to 119. That would be 179 playoff games. Add 43 goals to 62, you get 3, that's 65. 105. Add 37 assists to that, so you get at 3 to make it 70. Add 4 to 74. Add 30. 104 assists for add 80 to 129, and you get 209 playoff points. Incredible. It was an incredible career, to say the least. Of course, there are some things I couldn't fit on this board, so there's some stuff under here. You can see the Hockey Hall of Fame induction there. Hockey Hall of Fame induction in 1983, his first year of eligibility, well-deserved. And then first team and second team All-Stars. He's a first team All-Star. in 1960, 62, 64, 65, 66, 67, 68, 69, 70, and 72. He is a second-team All-Star in 1963 and 1971. More times than that, he was a first-team All-Star than when he wasn't. So, what a career. That's all I can say. What a career. Again, not going to get into the stuff that was he said, or I'm not going to say anything about what stuff that happened, stuff he said, stuff he could have done, stuff we don't know if he did, stuff that I'm just, you get what I'm talking about here. If you know what I'm talking about, you know what I'm talking about. If you know, you know. But I want to thank you guys so much for watching, and drop a like on this video. Rest in peace to Bobby Hull, and yeah, that's really all I have for you guys today. So I want to thank you guys so much for watching, and I shall see you guys in the next one. Goodbye.